And we're back. Let's get some playing in, stack some ideas, make your bass lines better. Metal Bass Monday. So, the channel updates. Just getting settled in at a new place, and as I mentioned in the past episodes, a new studio where I'm going to be able to do a lot more. Just getting kind of set up here, so things are still thrown together and whatnot, but the new digs are quite literally 4 times the size of the studio I had before. What this is going to let me do is be able to set up things for much wider and better multiple camera angles when I'm demonstrating stuff. The production lessons I've been wanting to do for you guys are going to be able to be done much more complete and to the best of my ability and best quality I can. And just a much larger and wider range of things I can do and do them faster and get them out for you. So I really appreciate you guys sticking in and communicating with me through the Facebook group. If you haven't already joined, link below. Make sure you jump in and join the conversation over there. And especially for my patrons that have stuck through, I got a few new pieces of content coming up, definitely. And one person tossed out an idea, and hit me in the comments below and let me know what you would think of it. Because after the idea was proposed, it initially struck me as, I don't know, maybe. But then I kind of saw that it might have a little bit of value. So they proposed that I do an episode about myself. Just my history and that kind of thing. And while I didn't know that, me just sitting here going on about myself would be that interesting, it did kind of strike me that there's a lot of people on YouTube that give out unqualified advice, or they just express their opinion, but they never really mention why you should listen to them. And that's an important thing, especially on the internet. So I was thinking of actually, instead of doing an episode, doing a live stream. So I could just talk about my past history, and when I give advice about touring, or I give advice about learning or auditioning or whatever else I do, that you understand where it comes from, my experience, and why I feel I'm qualified to speak on it. So if that would be interesting, like I said, hit me down below, and I think maybe doing it in a live stream format where I can talk about it, but also address things along the way, or have you guys chime in with maybe some questions that it might make you think of for things we've covered in past Metal Bass Mondays that now, knowing my history, you see the connection and might want more information. So that could be a cool thing, and we could knock that out pretty quick. So let me know what you think. And on the subject of patrons, I'm going to give a big thanks to everybody who hung in while I was getting this transition done. So thanks to Brooks, Carol Zemasinski, Stu Bennett, Marcus Orth, Power Surge, Chris, Steven Becker, TJ Meechan, Rob T, Bottom Dweller 5, D-Rock, Makathu, Kevin Toole, and Ryan Huggard. Love you guys. Always appreciate it. And there is more content coming for you guys this week too. Some really cool things. If you want to help out the channel, and if you want to get that additional content, Subscribestar and Patreon links below. Love to have you over there. And again, now that I've moved and I'm getting back in the swing and getting this studio set up over the next 2 weeks, lots of big surprises coming out, and I can't wait to share them with you. Patrons get that stuff first. So, with all that out of hand, it's been a little while and it's been a rough trip, so let's get into some playing. So what I wanted to share today is a really simple idea that I get a lot of mileage out of, and it helps create one more lyrical, I find memorable bass lines, and it also helps me map out some things on a fingerboard in some really easy to remember shapes. And as you know, I'm a big fan of that. Keep it simple, especially if you're going to play fast, but ideas that can help you outline some things really well, and also just some fun exercises and ways of getting around the neck. So you'll get a few things out of this, and as always, we're going to talk about idea stacking. And by that I mean always try and level up your playing and combining multiple ideas. So to start in with the basics, real quick for people who might know or might not know a little bit of theory, all an arpeggio is the notes of a chord, all the possible notes of a chord, played one at a time instead of being strummed. That's all it is. Now when I say things like the first, the third, the fifth, basically in an arpeggio you're playing every other note of the scale. So if I say the first, that means the root. So if we're starting here, that's going to be the first or the root. If we're playing, say, a minor arpeggio and I say the third, then that means the third note of the scale. Fifth, seventh. So what we're going to be dealing with in this lesson is we're going to deal with seventh arpeggios. And the reason I'm picking these is because they do an interesting thing as far as shapes go. The seventh is the last note you'll play in a scale before you reach the octave, meaning that it's the same note up a higher pitch and your scale starts over again. So you're fitting 4 notes in this idea before you get to the next octave, and what it also means that the 7 is very close to where the octave is, so there isn't a big position shift for you to get into it. So I'm going to demonstrate it instead of keep talking about it, and it'll probably make more sense to you. Since we're playing metal, I'm going to start with a minor arpeggio, and it's going to look like this. I'm going to be on the 3rd fret, and then the 6th fret of our bottom string, and you know, this stuff can translate to 4 and 6, obviously. So I'm going to go 3, 6, then the next string is 5, then the next string is going to be 3 again. So that all together, that's okay. So now to play that across 2 octaves, all you have to do is slide this finger up 1 whole step to the 5th fret and play that same shape over again. And then you've got another octave. So all together, that would look like this. So you've got this much of the fingerboard mapped out for creating an idea underneath of a minor chord. So you could tell, like right away, with a really simple idea like that, you have a more melodic or lyrical sound than rather than playing more just straight scale tones or very tight together riffs and note intervals. It's a really simple idea that can pay off, and just thinking about that across 2 octaves and using that little maneuver to get a shift in there, you get a lot of space, and again, you get 1, 2, 3 octaves of space. I find this is a really great way to start mapping out things like if the guitar player is hitting open chords, or there's any kind of place where you get to run a bit more and you can create a bass line that sits forward. I call it metal Motown. It's the old thing where Motown, the bass line, used to run the song. It was the main melody and the vocalists and everybody worked around it. Same type of thing here. You can hear it all over the place, especially in a lot of classic metal. It's not as done as much quite in modern metal, which I find is kind of a shame. But I think it's a great thing to try and bring it back. And so let's talk about the 2 other main arpeggios you're going to use, see the shape, and see how we can use them. Now, we just played a normal minor 7, so especially in metal, the other most common is probably going to be a diminished, or what's technically known as half diminished. We won't get too far into music theory here. But basically, it's going to be the same thing. It's just after you do the 3 and the 6, instead of doing 5 here, we're going to do 4. And then the rest is the same again. You go back to 3 here, and then up to your octave. So you get this. Okay? And I'm sure we all know the devil's interval, that's in there. So that one you might use as kind of a way to come up with, you know, an interesting bass line that has the... you know, something that's got, you know, a little bit of tonality to it. And it's real simple. All I'm doing is 1, 5, 3, 1, 5, 1, and then doing it at the octave again. I just skip the 7. Little melodic bass line. And that's fun and interesting. Lets you kind of step forward in the band and create something a little cool and something new. Now, the last one we're going to do, a little less common in metal, but there's two ways to play it. I kind of like the stretch version. You do the one you want. Basically, this one is the major. And what we do here is we go 3, 7, 5, then come up to the 4 for the 7. So we get... Then you slide, this is the only one that you just slide a half step. So you get... Okay? So you can try those ideas, and again, they are the components of making up a 7th chord. So your ideas are going to sound very melodic, and you can wander around with them. You've got 3 octaves of space in realistic usage, 1 octave, 2 octaves. Now we're dealing with octaves, so let's talk about leveling up. You want to stack ideas on top of each other. So what you can do right away is let's go back to, say, the minor scale and start using the notes and their octave above. So let's look at, say, so now you can see where some accent notes are. Try and write a bass line using this and going with octaves. So real quickly, you come up with something with a very familiar sound. We've all used octaves before and things. But now you're taking just a simple arpeggio pattern and turning that into an actual bass line. And then you start adding other ideas on top of it. Say you do octaves until you get to the top, and then because you run out of strings, then at the top you start using fifths. So let's try something like... So you've got simple ideas there, but you're just using octaves and that one pattern. Keep it simple, stupid. If you're going to do more exaggerated things, start with a simple thing. Put the meat of the bass line together. Then add and decorate as you go. It's kind of like a cake. Build that pound cake first, then add the icing, then add the decoration and all that type of stuff. But get your solid... Then you added, other ideas, maybe a scale pattern inside of it, anything you want to throw in. But this gives you a base and a core to be able to start writing melodic bass lines. Super simple, and it creates a great foundation. So I really recommend just starting with doing, the 2 octave pieces. Just do each one of them and just get used to how it goes. And then just start messing around with it. The other thing to do after this is, because we're always looking to level up, is then... if you want to do other ideas on top of it, start with your arpeggio at the bottom and then find the octaves going up higher, like say even to here, and then try and make more melody out of that. So now you can put in fills, you can make really long extended 3 and 4 octave bass lines, but you're just outlining a chord. It's a great and simple idea, so run with it and drop in the comments. Was this effective for you? And were you able to come up with something that worked out really well as far as doing this? Let me know how that goes. I'm looking forward to it. Now, while we're doing this, and we're mostly talking about left hand, I wanted to address something with the right hand. As far as tapping goes, I've got a lot of questions about a specific thing about my tapping style, and I wanted to cover it and re-emphasize it. If you haven't seen it, I have a tapping lesson up. If you're not big on it, I recommend it. I structured it a specific way to help you out in learning scale patterns at the same way. If you're one of my students that's done the skeleton key system, this one's for you. It's really going to help you lock that stuff in going up and down the neck. And getting to it, basically a lot of people who tap tend to lead with their index finger. You know, they get I'm sure we all seen the Eddie Van Halen, that drives me nuts. Again, Eddie's a master. There's all these guys who are incredible at it that lead with that finger, but I don't understand it. One, seems physically counterproductive, and two, has a lot of limitations. I lead with my middle. And there's a reason I do that. One is this finger moves faster and easier and has more actual strength to it. So I'm more relaxed doing like that. The other is that it puts fingers on both sides of this one. So I have this finger always muting. So now, if I'm doing this, one, I'm almost constantly hitting that string underneath of it and then trying to control it with either laying my palm or trying to... It's just a mess to me. I don't get, honestly, how the hell people do it. But that makes way more sense to me. The other is that I have a finger in front of it as well, so if I'm doing, say, here, see, I've got both strings above and below muted. It's great, and whereas this requires me to almost just kind of hawk over top of the string and my hands just kind of flying around, when I use my middle, because this gets locked down and this gets locked down, my thumb is on the bottom of the neck. So, or actually, let me get that up so you can see it, like there. So I'm using it almost like a fulcrum, running up and down the neck. So I am really locked in, and my hand is just doing this all the time. The other that makes it easy too is doing the more, that type of thing. This one now, I can pull this in if I need to, and now I've got all fingers available instead of leading with this and feeling like, it just feels to me like if I led with that finger all the time, pulling these in is this sudden hand movement. Whereas if I'm like this all the time, whatever type of tapping I'm doing, or my hand isn't moving, my arm is locked to the bass, my thumb is on here, and I'm just moving back and forth. So it's efficient movement, it's stability, and it creates speed and fluidity, and I can switch between any type of tapping that I want to, always having it clean, always having it muted, and having the best performance, as far as I'm concerned, being this finger. It sounds out the best, and it feels more accurate and locked down. So that's my recommendation on it, really getting your hand in that position, and I find this is the practical one. So I really genuinely suggest you lead with that middle finger, because it's metal. Use it. So that's going to wrap up this Metal Bass Monday. Coming up real soon, I'm going to hit you guys with a lot of content. Either way, whether I do one about myself or some other topics I want to address, there's a live stream coming, and there's a live stream just for patrons coming. Also for patrons, I've got that update about the 30-day practice challenge coming. And as well as that, we're going to get into those tone overhauls where I take what your sound is and I try and help you get it to where you want to be, or to model your favorite player's sound or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. I've gotten some great submissions in from a few people, and I'm working to make sure those are real tight. Those are going to be next week. We're going to start with at least 2 of those, going over someone's rig, analyzing the tone, getting them to where they want to be. And I think your guys' additional input, as well as mine, is going to be invaluable. So I hope you'll join me on that one. It's going to be really cool. So, with that said, thanks so much. It's great to be back. I can't wait for you to see the finished version of all this, and be out there crushing it. I'll see you on the next one. Wait! Don't go! You never know. Moments like this are crucial. The next video you watch could change your life. And it might be this one, or even this one. Are you willing to take that chance? Well, check them out.